The joint convention will come to order. Senator Norris, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, and members of the Joint Convention, it is my distinct privilege to introduce the 49th governor of the great state of Tennessee, Governor Bill Haslam.
The committee will please escort the governor forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please have a seat. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Members of the General Assembly, it is my distinguished honor to present to you the Honorable Bill Haslam, Governor of the great state of Tennessee.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Please have a seat. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Please have a seat. Thank you. Thank you. Lieutenant Governor McNally, by the way, happy birthday tomorrow. Thank you. Speaker Harwell, Speakers Pro Tem Hale and Johnson, members of the 110th General Assembly, constitutional officers, justices, General Slattery, commissioners, friends, guests, fellow Tennesseans, and to the girl from Memphis that I met 42 years ago and still have a crush on today, Chrissy. So 9 years ago this month, with Chrissy and my family standing beside me, I announced that I was going to follow a calling that I felt, to run for governor of Tennessee. Later, Chrissy would gently and kindly remind me that it was good to feel called to run, but it was an election that would determine if I was actually called to be governor. I will always be grateful that the people of Tennessee gave me this chance to have what I still think is the greatest job in the whole world. So 7 years ago, for the first time, I had the honor and privilege of speaking to you in my first State of the State address. I can remember standing in the back, waiting to be announced, and realizing it was only about the third time I'd ever even been in the House chamber. To be honest, there were a lot of things that I didn't know. But there was one thing that I did know with great conviction. At that first State of the State address, I stood before you and said, if we will make the right plans and decisions, then the state of Tennessee can compete with any state in the nation. Well, I'm sure a lot of people wondered, well, can we really compete with the very best? But then a lot of people wondered if Nashville, Tennessee could really have a hockey team. And if they did, would anybody show up for games? The 2017 Western Conference champion Predators answered that one. Or people once wondered if a startup company in Memphis could really build a business of delivering overnight packages all over the world. Or if a country girl from Sevierville or a brown liquid from Lynchburg could both become known all around the world by just their first names. We all know how FedEx, Dolly, and Jack turned out. So 7 years later, it's time to ask ourselves, how are we doing at competing with and against the very best? The answer? We're doing really well. In the short time we've worked together, we have become one of the very best destinations to live, work, and raise a family. Because of our commitment to jobs and education and conservative fiscal policy, Tennessee has a job growth rate greater than 17%, far above the national average, with nearly 400,000 net new private sector jobs created. We've added more than $1.3 billion into K-12 education, with nearly $450 million more going to teacher salaries. And thanks to the hard work and dedication of our educators and parents, and the additional accountability to our children, to our system, our children are the fastest improving students in the nation across math, reading, and science. So you'd think we did all of this by raising taxes the way other states have. But in Tennessee, we've cut taxes by $572 million annually, with policies in place to reduce taxes even more in years to come. Additionally, we've cut year-to-year spending by $578 million. Most states would have found such a task insurmountable, but we didn't just do those things. We did them while tripling our rainy day fund and decreasing our debt. What does this mean for our average citizens who have placed their trust in us? Regarding jobs, last year I told you more Tennesseans had a job than at any other point in state history. This year, we have dramatically improved on that. Our unemployment rate has dropped from 5.1% to 3%, the lowest rate in our state's 222-year history. In education, Tennessee students are posting the largest gain in the country. We're making increasing gains in the ACT, and we have the highest high school graduation rates the state has ever seen. While other states struggle to improve access to higher education, we created Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Reconnect so that all Tennesseans have access to college free of tuition and fees. As it relates to being trusted stewards of the people's money, we have accomplished all of those things while Tennesseans pay some of the lowest taxes in the nation, if not the very lowest. 7 years ago, we began changing our expectations. In doing so, we realized we could compete with any state. Well, maybe that should have been a foregone conclusion. But at the time, remember, federal funds were vanishing. We were contending with a $1 billion hole in the state budget. But because of our willingness to make tough calls and take on challenges, Tennessee grew stronger. The kind of progress we are talking about has not happened for many other states. I'll remind you that even in this healthy economy, many states are facing deficits. This kind of fiscal responsibility matters because people count on us to deliver critical services whether the economy is good or bad. You see, Tennessee's success didn't just happen. We didn't just get lucky. We have made tough decisions together and focused on solving problems. That's how real progress is made. So let me be clear. Because of the effectiveness of our work, Tennessee is in a better place today than it has ever been before. But you and I learned a long time ago, to whom much is given, much is expected. This evening, I'm proposing a bold new challenge. I want Tennessee to lead the nation in jobs, education, and government efficiency. I don't just want us to compete. I want us to be the best. 7 years ago, we raised our expectations. We became the kind of leaders who didn't just talk about cutting taxes and enhancing services. We actually did lower taxes while at the same time growing our economy and providing access to high-quality education. We cannot lose the momentum we have worked so hard to build. Now's the time to ask ourselves this question: can Tennessee really lead the nation? And just as important, why should we want to do that? Our reasons for desiring to lead are simple. Our country's founding fathers established the states as laboratories for democracies. Each state could choose its own path and learn what works. In Tennessee, we now know what works. We've seen extraordinary job gains, and now we must continue to fuel the jobs machine that we have created here in Tennessee. We've gone from the back of the pack in education results to being a state frequently cited as an innovator. Now we have the opportunity to accelerate those gains. And working together, our record of low taxes and low debt now position us to be the very best stewards of the people's money. You know, this is a time when American people are frustrated. They're frustrated with political gridlock. But Tennessee can lead the charge in showing the country what it means to actually solve problems. Can we lead? The answer is yes. Tennessee can and will lead, and I'm confident that the Tennessee way of providing opportunity while ensuring accountability will prevail. Okay, Haslam, why did you pick jobs, education, and government efficiency to measure ourselves? Well, because by continuing to fuel the jobs machine we've created here in Tennessee, we lift up the already high quality of life in this great state. See, jobs are created when businesses put capital at risk. So we focused on fostering the very best business environment. Because every business is looking for predictability, we passed tort reform and workers' compensation reform to bring our state into a more competitive position and make our business environment more predictable for businesses looking to grow or to locate here. Today, our workers' compensation rates are 40% below what they were before we passed that law. We restructured our Department of Economic and Community Development, and they began to focus on the unique assets in each region of our state. The state's Fast Track program began to steer away from tax credits, began to focus on grants with a better return for our citizens. In this past year, the Improve Act strategically focused on economic development from multiple angles. Good roads lead to good jobs. By providing a safe and reliable transportation network, we're making sure that the next generation of Tennesseans have access to the high-quality jobs made possible by a robust transportation system. The Improve Act also cut taxes for manufacturing businesses, a strategic advantage that we focused on because for every manufacturing job that is created, there are 3 to 4 other jobs that come with it. And businesses are already coming to Tennessee because of the change you made last year. For all of our efforts, Tennessee is now being recognized for the jobs machine that we have created. During this administration, Tennessee was named the #1 state for advanced industry job growth by the Brookings Institution. We were named State of the Year for Economic Development by Business Facilities Magazine, not once, but twice, becoming the only state ever to win back-to-back years. Additionally, we ranked #1 for new jobs resulting from foreign direct investment. And very importantly to all of us in this room, during 2017 alone, 45% of Tennessee's new job commitments were located in our rural communities. So, in addition to all of these economic development strategies, there's an even more critical step that we've taken. We quickly realized together if we could not provide businesses looking at expanding here or locating here the skilled workforce needs for the 21st century jobs, those businesses would go elsewhere. And if we cannot offer new businesses coming to Tennessee a quality K-12 education for their own children, well, those businesses would go elsewhere too. I want to be really clear. When we talk about jobs, we are also talking about education. We are talking about the ability for every Tennessean to realize his or her potential. We are talking about the God-designed gift that is the joy of learning. And we are talking about the importance of creating a solid foundation for every child in Tennessee to enjoy a meaningful and productive life. So when we talk about education, we truly are talking about the very future and success of this state that we love. Tennessee is now viewed as a change agent, an innovator in the world of public education. By accelerating the gains we've made, and most importantly, staying true to the reforms in place, we will ensure that no matter how much money a family has, and no matter what neighborhood a child grows up in, every student will have the opportunity to learn. We've introduced accountability into teacher tenure, treating it more like the honored profession that it is. Back in 2012, we asked our teachers if they believed the teacher evaluation process used in their school led to improvements in their teaching. 38% of our teachers believed it had. 5 years later, the number of teachers reporting that the evaluation process has improved their teaching has nearly doubled. Today, 74% of our teachers agree they are better teachers because of the evaluation process. We committed to the goal that every student has a quality teacher in a school led by a great principal. We set high Tennessee state standards. We are no longer lowering our hoops to 5 feet and telling everyone our kids can dunk. We lifted the caps on charter schools, giving parents more choices, and 6 of our state universities now have local boards focused solely on making those campuses the best they can be. We implemented the Complete College Act and expanded statewide a successful pilot program began at Chattanooga State, the SAILS program, which tackles the issue of high school graduates coming to college unprepared for the coursework. Today, 15% fewer students need remedial work when they get to college. All of these were discussions that needed to be had, with tough decisions to be sorted through, but as we think back to our fundamental challenge of not just competing with other states, but believing we could be the best, it was clear a shock to the system was needed. Everyone in this room or watching this at home can be proud of the realization that all Tennesseans have access to college free of tuition and fees. Everyone. We did that through the Tennessee Promise and Reconnect programs. We did that without raising taxes. And it's a promise not just for the next few years, but for the next generation of high school students and the next generation after that, whose sights are automatically lifted to a college degree because we've removed that barrier to access. Our goal of 55% of Tennesseans having a certificate or degree by 2025 will happen. In fact, if we sustain our current momentum, we are on pace to meet the Drive to 55 goal 2 years early. Thank you. But to lead the country, we must continue to push forward. A recent report from Stanford University highlighted K-12 student achievement growth throughout the country. The results were startling. The South, and particularly the Southeast, has not fared well. But in a sea of low to mediocre growth, one specific place on the map stands out as a beacon of progress. That place is Tennessee. This report has the rest of the country talking and trying to figure out, well, what's Tennessee doing right? I would submit to you it's not magic dust or rocket science, but rather a lot of people working hard every single day. Tennesseans who have maintained a commitment and a willingness to make hard policy decisions around school accountability and to stick to them when things got tough and critics got loud. The fact is this: together, we have made the right calls, the tough calls on the policies we've pursued, and now we have proof that our decisions were right. Why have other states not experienced the same growth we have? It's actually a pretty simple answer. Nearly every other state has compromised in some way on the core principles that have proved to make a difference: high standards, assessments that measure those standards, and educator evaluations tied to those assessments. We have not compromised, and I'm asking you to stand with me to ensure that we don't back up now, not this year, not next year, not ever. Tennessee can and will lead the nation in education, but decisions about jobs and education are not made in a vacuum. So we must measure ourselves in a third way. There is no single more important thing that governors and general assemblies do than put together the state budget. Budget sets policy. So let's talk about government efficiency. Coming out of the Great Recession, we had $1 billion hole in the state budget and a rainy day fund that had served its purpose but was in need of rebuilding. We didn't just back into lowering taxes in record amounts these last 7 years. We had to work for it. There was a need, and we had the opportunity to drastically overhaul the state's budget with a new philosophy built around seeking innovation and a commitment to provide the very best service at the lowest possible cost. Working together, our strong track record of low taxes and low debt now allow us to be the very best stewards of people's money. For decades, employment decisions in state government were based solely on seniority, with no consideration of job performance, while employees either received modest across-the-board pay increases or nothing at all. Well, I don't think anybody would think that that's a good way to motivate our employees or to serve our taxpayers. I've said it before, and I'll say it again: the team with the best players wins. State government's role is to provide services that Tennesseans aren't able to get on their own. Great employees make sure we're providing those services in the most customer-focused and effective way. The TEAM Act changed how we hire, evaluate, and reward state employees. It delivers what hardworking employees deserve and what taxpayers expect, and both are seeing the benefits. Tennessee state employees today, on average, make $10,000 more than they did 7 years ago. $10,000 more than they did 7 years ago on average. No other administration or General Assembly in history has worked as hard to fairly compensate our team members as we have together. I want to take this opportunity to thank our cabinet for their outstanding work. They have taken a customer-focused approach to leading and serving. We put in place a performance management system where leadership is held accountable for great service delivery. They've taken tourism to new levels, deployed troops all over the world, served our veterans honorably, protected us, improved health care, led safe prisons, built better roads, focused on our children and other vulnerable citizens, settled decades-old lawsuits that had cost us billions of dollars, and I could keep going all night. Sorry if I missed you. Please join me in thanking them for their great work. Well done. That applause makes up for all the tough grilling in committee sessions. We took a hard look at better managing our state's assets also. We have invested in maintaining our buildings like never before so that our state facilities are ready to serve future generations. We've eliminated unnecessary square footage, and during this administration, we will have vacated more than 1 million square feet of state office space. 1 million square feet of state office space. Let me see if I can say it right, because it matters. Eliminating significant dollars in operating costs. So you may wonder, how do we keep going? How can we maintain our status as one of the lowest tax states in the nation? We must continue to explore industry best practices, and we must stay true to our principles of providing, and our cabinet gets tired of hearing, I've said it tonight, but they hear it 10 times a day, providing the very best possible services at the lowest possible cost. Together, we have cut $578 million in taxes, including a nearly 30% cut to the tax that everyone pays, the sales tax on groceries. We've set a schedule to end the Hall income tax. We have already eliminated the inheritance tax and the gift tax. Listen to this. At the end of the day, together, we will have cut 9 times more than any governor and General Assembly before us in the history of the state. For all of our efforts in our problem solving, Tennessee is recognized as one of the best managed states in the nation. We have the lowest debt per capita in the country, and we have one of the lowest taxes in the nation as a percentage of personal income. But we're also seeing the results I've mentioned: rising incomes for families, more jobs than ever before, and our lowest unemployment rate in state's history. Governing Magazine recently said, and I quote, "7 years ago, Tennessee was seen as a laggard in the field of public administration. Today, it's a leader." Governing Magazine went on to say, "Tennessee offers a compelling example of what conservative government can deliver." We will lead the nation in efficiency by being the very best stewards of the people's money. Again, we didn't just get lucky. The collective decisions that we have made over the last 7 years have allowed us to reach where we are. To retain that, we will need a relentless pursuit of providing the best services at the lowest possible cost. When I began as your governor, I challenged us to be better. Tonight, I'm challenging us to take the next step. While we have accomplished so much, our work is not done. We must not let up. We must not slow down. The opioid epidemic is crippling our state and our country. The United States of America comprises 5% of the world's population, but we use 80% of the world's opioids. In Tennessee, we write 7.6 million prescriptions a year, and there are only 6.6 million of us, a staggering statistic. This is a crisis that knows no boundaries and impacts individuals and families regardless of race, income, gender, or age. Last week, we announced Tennessee Together, a comprehensive plan to end the opioid crisis that focuses on prevention, treatment, and law enforcement. Our approach will be aggressive with provisions to limit the supply of opioids, provide significant dollars to treat those in need, and to fight the illicit sale and trafficking of opioids. This will not be an easy fight or one that will be won overnight, but it is one that we must attack head on. I want to commend the considerable work that the House and Senate have already done to help inform and construct the plan, and I want to thank the judiciary for its collaboration on this important issue. Tonight, I ask that all shareholders around this issue work together with us to achieve real reform and take action that will save lives. Thank you. In K-12 education, we must continue to push forward with policies that have led us to be the fastest improving state in the nation. High standards, assessments tied to those standards, and educator evaluations that include measuring how students perform on those assessments. And we should continue to couple increased accountability with increased investment. If the budget I am proposing for next year is approved, together we will have added nearly $1.5 billion to K-12 education, with more than $500 million of that going to teacher salaries. Think about those figures. Those are unprecedented increases. And anyone who claims that this administration or this General Assembly is not fully committed to public education is simply ignoring the facts. We have supported our educators in public schools, and we will continue to do that. But we're going to do it in a way that improves student outcomes, not one that erases the gains that we have made. In higher education, we have made great strides toward increasing access to college through the Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Reconnect. We can also be proud that due to the hard work of our colleges and universities, Tennessee has had the lowest 3 years of tuition increases in the last 40 years. But it's time for us to focus not just on access, but success in college. While more students than ever are entering Tennessee's post-secondary schools, only 1 out of every 4 community college students completes college in 6 years, and roughly half complete at our 4-year institutions during the same time frame. The research is clear. Taking the credits needed to graduate on time results in better academic performance, higher retention rates, and the increased likelihood of completion. So tonight, I'm announcing the Complete to Compete initiative, which through appropriate levers and resources to students will ensure that they start strong, receive support to stay on track, and make it to graduation day. Tonight, I am also introducing the Juvenile Justice Reform Act of 2018. We all know that far too many kids get lost in the juvenile justice system. With great leadership from the Senate and the House, a task force on juvenile justice studied our system and determined that reform is needed. We can do better, we can be smarter, and tonight I'm asking the General Assembly to adopt responsible reforms that will focus the most significant state interventions on the most serious offenses. We know from evidence that costly out-of-home placements in many circumstances are not good for children, communities, or taxpayers. With a responsible investment now, we can positively impact the lives of children and their communities, and we can use our resources more effectively. So 7 years ago, we challenged ourselves to compete against the best. We have met that challenge. Not only have we transformed into a state that can compete, we have created the kind of momentum it takes to actually lead. Make no mistake, together we have created one of the most effective governments in state's history, and the momentum we have created will make us the most effective state government in the country. It has been my life's greatest honor to lead this state that I love for the past 7 years. Will you join me in finishing what we began? Tennessee, it is time to lead the nation. I believe we can. I believe we will. Tennessee will lead because every man and woman created in the image of God deserves meaningful work. Tennessee will lead because every child in every zip code deserves a high-quality education. And Tennessee will lead because taxpayers, hardworking Tennesseans who get up every day with the desire and hope to do better today than they did yesterday deserve a government that will work as hard as they do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Several weeks ago on a Sunday night, I was driving back to Nashville from a weekend in Knoxville. Well, actually, I wasn't driving. I was being driven. That's another thing that's getting ready to change in my life in about a year. But traveling down I-40 in the dark that night, I started thinking about this amazing journey that we have been on for the last several years and how much I have loved the honor of having this job. I thought of a quote that I had memorized back in college. It seemed right then, but I know now to be even truer than a 20-year-old could know. Oliver Wendell Holmes, the brilliant jurist, said, "This is the great joy in life, to be a force for good instead of a feverish, selfish clod of ailments, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy." The people of Tennessee have given us this incredible opportunity to be a force for good. Whether, like me, you have one more year, or you intend to be here for years to come, let's use this time, while we have this privilege of answering the call to lead, to be that force for good for the state of Tennessee. Let's decide now that Tennessee will lead. Thank you and good night.
The purpose for which this joint convention was called has been accomplished. The joint convention stands dissolved. Oops, is it off? No, it's not off.